What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the Praise Podcast. My name is Eric Lade. I get the pleasure of hosting the Praise Podcast each and every time we release an episode, and it is not only me who is carrying the load of the Praise Podcast. That's right. You know who really is pulling this car up the hill. It is the co-host, the Brooke Paninsky. She's in the house. If you can imagine, she is once again on her phone, not paying a lick of attention to my intro. I'm starting to get a complex. About like how just maybe that means I need to switch it up because you know what you are expecting what I'm going to say. So you feel like I don't need to pay attention. I already know what he's going to say.
I don't like that you're calling me out like this in front of all of our friends.
Well, I'm just saying because if you're thinking it, they're probably thinking it too.
Yeah, but in my defense, I'm pulling up my song spotlight, so I'm just preparing for the things that you have coming.
Sorry,
so.
It's just my own insecurities.
Correct.
Coming out live.
Yep.
On air
for all of our friends to hear.
For everyone to hear. Well, we are really excited about today's episode because it's a What's Your Story episode, which are always our favorite.
And it's been so long since we've done one.
It has. It's been a while, and mainly it's our favorite because somebody else does most of the talking instead of Brooke and I, which we always love. But we could not be more pumped for who we have joining us today for that. But before we get to that, we're going to leave you with a little bit of suspense. Although, as always, their name is going to be in the title. So, it's never really super suspenseful. But to us right now, it is very suspenseful. But we have some big news to release, Brooke.
What's that?
A mystery has been solved.
Oh, my gosh, yes.
I mean, like weeks, months of investigating and clue finding.
This is amazing, yes.
We have found.
We finally found.
We have revealed, or I guess they have revealed who the bonbon provider has been.
The bonbon bandit.
The bonbon bandit has been found, and bandit feels like a strong word because
now that we know
she's
who
just
it
the
is.
nicest lady.
Yeah.
And she actually, we will now forevermore refer to her as Grandma Bonbon.
That's right.
And if you are listening, Sue, thank you for all the bonbons that you have sent. At one point, I talked about I needed to step up the things I was asking for, and I, said like a new truck. So she got me a new Hot Wheels truck, which my son Bo has loved. Yeah, he was pumped about that.
That's so good.
But it's just another example of how cool and great all of our listeners are, and the Praise Podcast family. You guys are just the best, and you're encouraging. And so shout out to Grandma Bonbon all the way up in like the upper peninsula of Michigan. So like up there, basically Canada. I don't know, actually. That might not be. It's got to be close. It's got to be really close to Canada. But she'll let me know. Yeah. I'm sure she'll inform me.
She's sending us authentic bonbons on the regular.
Yeah, but we greatly appreciate that, and that mystery has been been solved. And so and she's one of our more faithful listeners and just has sent us encouragement and just awesome. So anyways, thank you for that. Also, shout out to Merle, who is another faithful, because he provided us with some coconut bonbons, which were a whole different take, a whole different vibe of bonbon. I've had to start sharing these bonbons with our creative arts team because I'm like,
so many.
And it's bad for the belly. As far as the pants are starting to fit a little tighter, the shirts are starting to be a little snugger.
That's funny.
And but thank you, shout out to Merle. He also always listens, and he hooked us up with some. And
Merle, even I was talking to him about it after church a couple weeks ago when he gifted us with those and. They apparently are the bonbons he would eat when he was a kid. And so he got them at Cracker Barrel and just brought them. And he said that he was so tempted to just open one and eat a few before he gave it to us. And he's like, no, I better not do that. But I just thought that was really funny that, I don't know, they were a part of his childhood, that he just wanted, that he loved so much and wanted to give us a taste of that.
We were talking, which this is not meant to be a bonbon episode, but you know how
we
know how it goes. So we were talking about those in the back when Merle brought those, and I was sharing them with everybody. And Shia, who is, she sings in our choir,
Yes.
but she is from the UK. And she was telling us about, like, because I guess maybe France has there's a French version of
bonbons?
the bonbon.
Oh.
And so we were getting, I mean, it's just,
Who would have thought?
the bonbon has brought the global church community together, and it's been really cool. But enough about bonbons.
Honestly, it's a great segue into who we have.
It really is, because speaking of just bringing the global church together, and
by a love of bonbons and Jesus.
Yeah, and just one of the coolest people I know. We are blessed to be joined by he's our IT guy around here, which is a whole thing in itself. But he does so much else and is so much more than just an IT guy. But we are joined in the studio today by the Fran Campos.
Woo!
Hi.
What's up, Fran?
Hey, Fran.
Hello.
Hey, he says hello.
Yeah,
Hello there.
he's getting his voice going, but
All warmed up.
I'm good. I have been quiet for a long time.
Yeah.
So I didn't know
So
how that
funny.
was
Here,
gonna
you're gonna
come out.
speak closer to that. Yeah, try that.
Thank you.
Oh yeah,
there he is.
there you go.
There he is.
That's perfect.
So, Fran, welcome to
Thank
the Praise Podcast.
Thank you.
We are excited to have you. So, as you know, in these What Your Story episodes, we try to have somebody that's either involved on our creative arts team or somebody that volunteers, as a volunteer or an active member of that in some other way. But Fran is on our creative arts staff. He does all things IT, and he is like, he just saves the day all the time. And like all IT guys, they have a way, and Fran is really good about this, when it's like you share their problem, your problem with them, and you can probably tell that they're like, this guy's an idiot. This is a simple fix. But like, he makes you feel like, oh no, you've done nothing wrong, even though deep inside he's like, why would you do that?
It's so
And he
funny.
he never makes us feel bad for our issues. He doesn't ever say, have you tried just turning it on and back on? Turning it off and back on first. But
I have said that though.
you have, but sometimes that actually works. So
here's the thing. I have to say that.
it's required.
It's
Because
required.
in my
It's the
job,
first step.
If I assume that you've done certain things and then we spend an hour trying to fix it and then we go back and restart it and it fixes it, then you're probably not going to like me for wasting an hour of your time either. So
I
get
it.
it. I have to ask.
I get it.
We're glad you
I
do.
ask that to my wife
Yeah.
on the regular when she
Sweet
brings me an
Maria.
issue. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
So Fran is also in the family tree of James McKenzie, and so we'll get into this
The
when he gets
clan.
into, but like all of James' son-in-law's work at the church. So that's a whole nother podcast topic. But so you have married one of James's daughters, but Fran is originally from El Salvador. And so, which we'll get to hear more about that. But we're excited to have Fran with us. But Fran, the first thing we always do on the Praise podcast is do a song spotlight. Song spotlight is just an opportunity for us to share the music that we have been listening to a whole bunch recently, in hopes that maybe it will inspire someone listening who's like, I could use some new music. I'll check that out. So, Brooke, since you were doing your homework during the intro, you should be prepped and ready.
I am prepped.
Why don't you
And I am ready.
lead us off?
Okay, sure. So my song spotlight for this episode is More Than Able, and it is off of Elevation's new album. And it is simple and golden. And one of the it's a song, the way like melodically that it's written, it just so easily is something you just like find yourself singing or humming or hearing throughout the day. And it's honestly, and not to dig in and get too personal too quick right off the bat, but we are who we are. But we've been walking quite the journey with our 3 foster children. And just this last week, we've had huge mountain just moved because of the miracle working power of God. And just I have found this song, I'm just praying. I've just been praying it, like just throughout the day, like just singing the lyrics over again, like you are more than able, you are more than able. So like in my mind, as I'm thinking about all of these things that stand in the way from our children getting out of the foster care system and officially adopted, I just stop any worry or stop any fear, and I just am like, you are more than able. You know, you just find yourself just in this moment of worship, just declaring God, like, you are more than able. So you just lay it. And so that song's really special and very powerful, but very simple, which are the best ones for me. So yeah, I totally encourage anybody to just listen to it and declare that, like speak that life over situations that you're walking through of just like, you are more than able to do anything. So yeah, that's mine.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Fran, what do you got? Hit us with yours.
Well, I didn't tell you this beforehand, but I got two.
All right. Well,
there you go.
I didn't want to get shut down beforehand, so I just chose not to tell you this. But no, I have actually. I hope you allow this, and if not, well, you can cut it out. Okay.
We don't cut on this.
We don't cut. We've never done it.
Yeah.
We refuse.
Yeah.
But I have one in Spanish and one in English.
Oh, that's amazing.
For our Spanish-speaking people, that I thought our Bonbon grandma was a Spanish-speaking person. I don't know. Maybe she is.
Bonbons from Argentina.
Deep down.
Yeah, you were having to translate them for us. So.
Where are these people getting this bonbon? So that's the question. Because I want some.
I mean, because they're coming from Argentina.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how they're ordering them or how Sue's doing that, but like,
we'll have to get more in depth.
We're gonna have to ask her. But yeah, they are authentic.
I need a dealer.
Yeah, there you go.
But no, so the one in Spanish is called, it's Psalm 42. But the name of it in Spanish, obviously, so it would be Salmo 42. And it's by a band called Twice. And it's, Psalm 42 just basically says, as the deer pants for water, so my soul pants for you or wants you. And then the other one is called Living Water by Jonathan Ogden. I think that's how you pronounce his name. But it's basically the same thing. It's just, I think how it talks to me, those two songs, they're kind of funny because I feel like I listened to them around the same time a few months ago. And then it just kind of clicked that they both talked about the same thing, basically. And
what was that thing?
Well, like, for example, the lyrics of Living Water, it just says, let me see. My restless soul, it searches far and wide and thirsts again and again, but I've come to find a fountain that won't run dry. It never ends. So come all you weary, you tired and thirsty, and run to the springs of life. All in need of mercy, come, enter in freely, and find your soul's delight. And then I think it just talks to me because they're both about whatever's going on in your life and whatever you usually find your comfort on. Like, I feel like I'm prone to get distracted by everyday life and everyday worries and everyday distractions, just, things that you can put your attention to that are not necessarily bad, but also are not priorities. And I think these two songs basically make me really think about how I need to seek God. Like, there's more to know about him. If I'm not feeling like I should be with him every minute of my life, then there's something more that I need to be looking for, because he should be enough. And I think that's something that he's kind of been working in my life recently. Yeah, so
good stuff.
I like those songs.
Yeah,
good stuff. Mine, I don't know if we've ever done this. Like, we've said every time we should have been doing like a running list.
Oh, yeah.
Of ones that we've done. So this may be a repeat. I don't remember. But it's by SEU Worship, and it's Monday Morning Faith.
Yes.
Have we done that one before?
I don't know, but we've talked about it so much, like not on the podcast.
Yeah. Regardless, I'm still listening to it a bunch.
Yeah,
so, again, that's SEU Worship. It's called Monday Morning Faith, and it's really just a song about faith on Monday through Saturday. Like that God calls us and really requires more from us than just an hour on Sunday or, a little bit of time through the week that we give him. But it's in fact that Monday morning faith, or the Tuesday or the Wednesday or the Thursday or the Friday or the Saturday, and how we live, that really makes, the impact. And it's not just what we do on a Sunday. And so, it's a really good song. Really, there are a lot of different versions of it, but yeah, SEU worship, Monday morning faith. It's definitely it's a good one.
We were on a coffee trip when I first heard that, and Caden Vaughn was like, check this song out, and played it. And as soon as it started, I'm like, this is the most Caden Vaughn-esque worship song.
It is a Caden song.
And I was not surprised that he was drawn to it or sharing it. And then, again, it's the first time I'm hearing it, and I'm like, I've never heard a worship song sing the days of the week. And this one does, and it's not weird.
No.
I'm like, if we try to write something while singing the days of the week, people would be like,
like
what
Sesame
are you doing?
Street.
What are you doing? But it's funny. Like, I don't know if it's like the bridge or what it was. I can't remember, but she literally sings the days of the week. But I'm like, I'm still so powerful.
Yeah, you can check it out.
Because it really is just a song that declares like wanting him, being obedient to him, just living a life for God.
We'll listen to it on the way to Mexican Food Friday.
Yeah, let's do that. That'd be good.
There.
Yeah. I just hear she's and Monday, and she's just like,
that's good. All right, well, that's been our song spotlight. So you should check those out if you need some new music. If you have music that we don't normally talk about, you should email us, send those in, because we're always looking and open for new music, and we listen to a lot of music around here. So,
do they call it a repertoire? How do you say that?
Repertoire.
Like is that like a?
Oui.
It's pretty. It's pretty.
Yes.
Does that mean like it's very vast? Like it's.
I don't
like
know.
very
I think
wide,
it's
or like
I
my
don't know.
collection of music.
I think it's kind of like a collection. Right?
Yeah.
A catalog.
Yeah, it's like it is though. It's like our repertoire. How do you say it?
Repertoire.
Yeah, of music is very vast.
Yeah,
Like the list of songs that I really do feel like we could go from like one category and one sound and one vibe to like the completely opposite end of the spectrum. So
yes. So if you've got some songs that you're like, they need to check these out. They never talk about this artist or these artists.
Yeah.
Email us, Eric@centralnow.com, Brooke@centralnow.com, or you can email Fran at centralnow.com because he always likes music too. So
I do.
All right. So that's been Song Spotlight. So now it is the time we've all been waiting for. It's time to get to what we really want to know, and that's to get to talking to the Fran Campos. So, Brooke, this is where I turn it over to you. Good luck and Godspeed.
Thank you. Okay, so Fran,
You just walked out of the room.
Eric just left the room. Oh my goodness. Okay, so Fran, this part is always so fun because we get to ask the same questions, and we ask the same questions, but it always leads to different conversations. And so the first question we always ask is, what's something that most people may not know about you? So we already took the whole you're from El Salvador thing, so you can't say that.
I was going to play that.
We also said you're already a son-in-law of James McKenzie, so you can't say that.
Just trying to take all the easy
low-hanging
Why do you do that to me?
Dun, 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 dun.
Honestly, Eric saw me struggle with this question. I honestly, I can't think of anything. I'm sorry.
What is what is a weird skill that you have, or like
Skill.
a food that you like that people wouldn't know, or a thing you like to do that people wouldn't guess? It's like not obvious. Like
I see.
you're like, oh, surely he does because he's from El Salvador. Like what?
I have one that I will share for you.
Sure, answer it for me.
I'm just saying, I'm going to give you a second, but I've definitely got one that I feel like most people don't. I mean, I know some.
I think
do.
I know what you're going to say, and I think people know that.
Maybe.
If it is what I think it is.
Well,
Are you going to talk about it? Why don't you talk about it?
Yeah,
Do
why don't
it.
you talk
Say
about
it.
it, Fran, so I don't have to.
Well, no.
It's exciting.
Are you?
Yeah.
Is okay. Well,
Oh, that's not what I was going to say.
right. You knew that.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, see?
Oh man.
See?
You have to do that.
Here's my thing. I'm not insightful enough to know myself enough to answer this question.
Are you an introvert?
I think so. I think so.
That's the problem. No, I'm kidding.
Get out of here.
Go ahead. Sure, because that's not the one
Okay.
I was thinking you were going to say.
Well, see, I think people know this,
Clearly
but
not.
I guess
Brooke doesn't. So.
I did. Yeah. Tell the world, Fran.
Okay. Well, I can play the guitar.
Dun, 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 dun.
Surprise!
It's
yeah,
amazing.
yeah. I mean, I used to play that. Maybe this is why I feel like people know this, because like when I lived in El Salvador, I was part of the worship team in our church.
Yeah, because we all went there.
Well,
That's how
what
we
I'm
know.
saying is half of the people that know me in my life from El Salvador know this.
that. Mm-hmm.
But then when I got here, I played in Ignite, when I was volunteering
true.
in middle school.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess that would still be.
But
not
I didn't
a
know
ton of
that.
people. Yeah. So,
But he's not
Wow.
just a guitar player.
What else do you do, Fran?
But I'm saying, like, when he picks, like, I remember the first day, I don't remember who, I think Bria actually was like, hey, Fran plays the guitar. If you ever need somebody, you should ask him. I was like,
Heck yeah.
sweet, especially, it's not always easy to find people to volunteer in middle school. So it's like, hey, Fran, word on the street is you play guitar. You should get up there. And then he gets up there and just starts playing, I mean,
And it's amazing.
in the most beautiful way possible.
No, I just play
And-
loud.
That's amazing.
And I was like, what the heck? Where's this guy been?
What?
And
Fran, get out of the
Yeah.
control room on a Sunday.
but no.
Hyping
Come
me
hang
up
out.
too much.
No.
He's hyping me up too much.
I mean, he's
Oh, so cool.
a very skilled guitar player.
I appreciate you thinking that about me.
Yeah.
It's
Well, you are.
Thank you.
I was going to say the more recent news that people really actually might not know was official.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. I needed you guys to
Yeah.
to unearth
We just
this.
know a lot about you, I guess, huh, don't we,
Yeah,
Fran?
you know more about me than me.
Share the other one. Share that one.
My citizenship.
Yeah.
Yep. So yeah. So I did not grow up here in the States. So we went through a long process after I got married. Bria and I got married. A long paperwork process,
Which
with
we'll get to.
getting a residency, green card, work permits, whatnot, and it takes a little bit of time. But just recently, May 5th, Cinco de Mayo.
Cinco de Mayo.
Which is not a Salvadoran holiday. It's a Mexican holiday, but it's just
Is
funny
it
that
actually
it
a
happened.
Mexican holiday, or is it
It
an
is.
Americanized version of a Mexican holiday?
That I don't know because I'm
Okay.
not Mexican.
Well, that's true. That's true.
But I don't know. I know that we don't celebrate in El Salvador, but something happened in Mexico in Cinco de Mayo. I'm not sure what
Isn't
it is.
it their Independence Day?
No.
I
don't
thought
know.
it
I
was.
just feel like it's one of those things that Americans.
I think it's
have-
a battle or something like
Yeah,
that.
like
that
they-
happened.
That's why we have Independence Day, because there was a battle that happened and we won, right?
Well,
We're free.
That's
Yeah.
4th of July.
Yeah, 4th of July. So I thought
it
their Cinco de
says,
Mayo was like their like.
parts of Mexico in honor of a military victory of 1862 over the French forces of Napoleon III. So, because I thought their independence was the same day as, but this is besides the point, I guess. There's something else.
I'm gonna
somewhere
look
there's
that
a
up.
history person.
I'm gonna
going.
call
Because-
Fernando.
Yeah, now
we'll
with
ask
Mexican
Fernando today
Independence
We'll-
Day
we'll find out.
is September 16th.
gonna say,
nope.
El Salvador is September 15th.
Yeah, because I think that's the common thing is like America, like, oh, it's their Independence Day, and I don't
And
think it
it's
has
not.
anything to do with that.
I wonder
but
what
yeah.
it is then. Like, because I mean,
We'll
they
ask
celebrate.
It's a
it.
Surely
military
somebody
victory.
knows. Rosa
Yeah.
will know or something.
Rosa
Yeah.
will know. We'll ask. Anyways, that's cool. Yeah.
But
so.
so May 5th, I finally got my citizenship. So it's been a long process, but praise God that we're done with it. So yep, I'm
Yeah.
officially a U.S. citizen,
That's incredible.
which is nice.
It's
It
so awesome.
makes life easier a little bit in some
Yeah.
ways.
I can
but-
only imagine. It's amazing. Well, speaking of easy, this is the easiest part for people to do, and it's critique Eric's song choices for a weekend.
This is my favorite part.
Yeah. Hey, so usually we ask the question, what's your favorite and least favorite song to lead?
Mm-hmm.
And originally I was prepared to like target Eric because that's A, always fun, and B, like I didn't realize you were a worship leader until like this conversation we've just had over the last 5 minutes. So maybe I'll let you pick. Like, do you, like when you were leading worship and or when you do lead or did lead worship here at Ignite, like you can answer it from that perspective, or you can answer it as like just like being led by worship or like led into worship by your boss over there. And like we're going to talk about songs we like to lead or be led into or like songs we don't. So like pick one of your favorite songs to lead or that Eric does for on a weekend. And then pick like your least favorite one, which is the part where usually it's fun. The song that you don't like.
Interesting.
But
Okay.
you can pick.
Yeah.
We don't have a lot of rules around here.
Nice.
Yeah.
I like that. One of my favorite ones. I don't know. I like what we sing. So I don't know that I can pick one.
Is there one like when you were leading in El Salvador that you liked that you preferred? Like, because if you got to pick the set or anything there.
Well,
or
I just
that?
played the guitar. I never sang. I'm not a good singer.
Well, it doesn't matter. That's the leading worship.
So I had no choice in what songs we sang.
Oh, so maybe we need to.
Yeah. So I have an answer for the ones I don't like. That's for sure.
That's always
Everybody
the more
always
fun.
does.
Yeah.
But the ones I like, I don't know. I think I like. There's just something about in general. I guess I can answer in general. Is there's something about the songs, the slow ones. You know,
yeah.
the ones you sing for ministry time here, or that we used to do just for prayer time, and more like, I don't know what would you call it in Spanish. It's like praise is like the ones that are upbeat and stuff, and then like adoration is what you call the ones that are like more like but there's something to those, because I feel like I don't know, like it's easier to be upbeat with the upbeat songs because they're upbeat. I said that a lot. But with the other ones, it's like I feel like people are more focusing on what the lyrics are, or the moment, or actually, I mean, it both work the same way. I'm not dissing the other ones. Of
course.
But I like those two. I don't know, just because even as you play them or sing them or anything, is, I don't know, they're slower. You got more time to take them in.
It's a different
think about what you're
Kind
saying.
of
And I don't know, I like those. Even though I usually complain to Bria that the songs that she likes are too slow. But when it comes to worship, I like them.
Yeah. That's what
but she shows me a new song, and the first thing I ask her is like, "Is it slow?" Because she likes that. That's her kind of music, like folky, slower, music. But
that's sweet.
so I would say that in general, I like those kind of in general.
Sure.
The ones I don't like, which is, it's funny how it's different, and obviously there's pros and cons to both. But in here, you have your set of songs pre-selected. You have tracks that tell you when you're doing chords and stuff like that. When we played in El Salvador, you have a metronome. That's it. So the singer can do whatever they want with the song. They this is the verse, this is the chorus, this is the bridge, and you just write with them whatever sign they do with their hands. You're just doing that next. Which is fine, but then what would happen is the church I went to in El Salvador, they had at that time 4 different services on Sundays, with 3 to 4 sometimes different worship leaders. So come practice time, one worship leader was singing some songs, the next one was singing different songs, and the other one was singing different songs. And you also had different bands for some services. So it's a good thing that we had enough people there to have different bands for one Sunday and different singers. But at the same time, you only have so much time to practice, so you can't practice all the songs that someone wants to sing for a service, when usually worship time was about an hour long. And so you would practice 2 or 3 songs for your service that you were scheduled to do. And then the day off, he would have a list of 6 or 7. So the rest you were just kind of expected to know and remember. So you just kind of had to just know them, which was fine. You eventually got to that point. Like at first I was terrified. And this guy just because he was, I don't know, he liked to be this way. And in a way it's good because it challenged me. But literally my first Sunday that I had to play, he wanted to sing a song that we had not played in such a long time. And, he sang it. And I was just there trying to figure it out, but it was rough.
I wish people could just see your air guitar you just did.
It was rough. But so to answer your question precisely, I did not like the ones where they would go up a key.
Key change.
Because it's like math.
Yeah.
It's like you have to do a lot of
Transposing in your head.
calculations in your head.
Yeah.
And I don't like that. Like I know when I know my songs, I'm like, okay, cool. But every now and then they would be like, okay, let's play this song. And then out of nowhere he would be like, let's go a key up. And I'm like, oh no. Now, easiest way to do that is, you do that.
Right. Yeah.
But there were some, I don't know why. It's just, it was tough for me. Usually we had our bass player, he was telling us the notes, the chords, because it was a struggle. So those I didn't like. I mean, but just more of a musical.
Yeah, there's a lot you could talk about there, really, in general. And I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. I don't think, because I don't want to derail the whole thing. But yeah, there's a lot with that. But I can understand your distaste for that.
I don't know. It's almost worth talking about. Just like for a second. I could feel it like bubbling in your blood.
No, I mean, it's not bad.
Not
it's just
bad, but just like you want to talk about it.
No, well, it's just that idea of like, there's, I just think as a worship leader, I mean, you gotta go where you feel like the Holy Spirit's telling you to go and do that, but not like at the expense of like I feel like the Holy Spirit would never tell you to do anything that would cause distraction for other people. You know what I mean? So just that idea of, it's just
has to be a beautiful balance.
Yeah.
It has to be a beautiful balance of here's the plan, but like God, like you do with this plan with what you want, and the Holy Spirit, like, I mean, and I've been in situations where like, you've had to, we've went from top to bottom, and, there have been moments where like, and when you read a room and you read where the people are in their moment of worship, and then like that's when you move with the Lord. If he said if he's like, I mean, a perfect example would be like if you're in a song and the song is over, but literally in your spirit you don't feel like it should end, the room's not ready to end, it seems cut off, like the discernment you have as a worship leader, like read that and then obey, you know what I mean? And then be prepared to when we have to go back and do the chorus, or be ready and know your music enough to be able to like be flexible and all of that. But like, don't be so, I mean, I feel like it's so important as leaders to like not be so set on a top to bottom schedule. But it's also so important to like be as prepared as you can be, and ready to move as the Lord leads you to move, like be obedient in that. Because I think both can be distracting. It's distracting that if you stop a moment that the Lord is working and moving just to move on to the next thing you've got on your list, like that's distracting. You know what I mean? It's like, wait, hold on, what? But then it's also distracting if you move and do something that you shouldn't. You know what I mean? It just has to be both. Yeah. Like if your team's not prepared and they're like, what's the song? Or, like they're going to be more distracted about what they're playing or what they're doing than like listening to the way that the Lord is moving, in a moment of worship. So like you just have to find a balance of both. But that is a good conversation. Like that can be had for like the global church.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I think the other way around, how it was before for me is like it also in a way pushes you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you just kind of have to be ready if you really want to worship, then you got to know your songs well enough that you don't have to think too much about them no matter what they pop, Yeah. But there's an extreme to that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But that's with everything.
I think for me and in that role, for me, it's all about knowing who is behind me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that, honestly, that plays a lot into it because I know that, there's certain groups or people that I know, like if I do, like I have to really feel like I need to do it because I know that it's going to throw them off or it's going to make them uncomfortable, not in like a,
not like a spiritual way,
but just in like a,
I wasn't ready.
I wasn't ready for that.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Yeah.
And then that just pulls them out of it. And then if they're not, and so like, but then there's other people I know that, hey, if I know that I've got the freedom to do, if I want to go somewhere, I feel like I need to go somewhere, I can. And so I think that's part of it. And so probably, if they're leading and they know that like, hey, my crew back there, I know they can figure it out. Then you know what I mean. Like then that's if that's part of knowing your team, you know. And that's so I mean if they know that, hey, whatever happens, they can hang and they can follow, then it'll work out okay. But I think that's a big part.
I
of it
love
too.
that.
But,
look at you, Fran, bringing good combo to your episode. Look at you. All right, you ready for the next question?
Yeah.
This is always a fun one. Are you ready? What is one dream, goal, or thing you wish to accomplish? You already did the obvious one, which was become a U.S. citizen.
Yeah. I was born for that. A dream or goal.
Or thing. Yeah.
I actually did have an answer for this one, I think. I have like a far-fetched one and a more real one.
Both are welcome.
Let's start with both.
Yes.
We'll allow it.
So far-fetched one, and I was telling this to Bria a few months ago, something like that. But just because I know some music and I can play an instrument and stuff, but I never was like deep into it ever at all. I mean, more than being part of a worship team or a band or something like that in college. But I would like to make music. That's like my far-fetched one. It's like, you know, like it would be, I would like to be creative enough to do it, but I don't have the time to practice or anything. I can't tell you last time I played the guitar at home, and it's hard when you have little kids. Like they want to play it with you. But that's something I would like to do at some point in my life. But you know, it would just be cool.
If only we had an office mate who is constantly
making music,
making, you know, that you could just wander into his office. Yeah. And
I don't really think that's as far-fetched as you might feel like it is. Yeah. I feel like, and in all seriousness, like your overflow of your testimony would just make incredible worship moments for people. Like what pours out, whether it be lyrically or by just sound alone, like is anointed. It would be anointed. Like your life and your story, which I can't wait for people to hear about in just a moment, but like it is so rich. And when it comes out from that place, I mean, it lands well and it's received well by people who are then led by that. And so, I don't know. That would be, I'm going to write that down and I'm going to revisit that in a few months and see, hey, Fran, hey, how's your music coming?
I don't know about that.
Today, just that's special. I like to know that about you.
That's a great question that people ask, because Brooke and I were just talking, like, you'll get that question. How's the music? Like, literally last night we just worked on a song that we wrote 2.5 years ago.
No way.
Yeah.
And we're just now actually
recording it.
Getting, like getting it recorded. And so it's just funny. We were talking about but like realistically, you know, you can only do it when you got time. And sometimes it might be 2.5 years later before you have time.
Because you'll hear artists be like, yeah, we wrote this song, 4 years ago. And I told Eric, I'm like, it didn't take him 4 years to write it because it's that good. Right. Like, it took him 4 years to finish it because who has the time? You know what I mean? Like, seriously. And I was like, and then you have some that they're like, we wrote the song and then just like, and like a month later, we've got it recorded and we're ready, and you're just like, because you just had the time to knock it out, but it was funny. But no, that's exciting, Fran. Cool. But what's the one that you think is like less far-fetched? Because you said you had two.
It's funny because when I was thinking about this, it's like, this is less far-fetched, but it's harder.
Okay.
And honestly, like if I think about that, the main goal of life just kind of is honoring God and just, being close to him. I would just like my kids to love Jesus, and grow up to be good Christians that lead their families well. And a lot of that is on me and Bria right now. So it's a big responsibility. But like, I feel like if our kids can grow up to be that, I'll be happy. So I don't know. That's one goal I have.
Yeah, that's powerful.
That's harder.
When the podcast guest makes you like my goal or dream was like open a food truck. Fran's like, I just want my kids to know
love
and
God.
love Jesus.
But that's the thing, though. It's like it's simple,
good.
But it's not.
No, it's not. I was just talking to Nick Malone this morning in my office. Him and Kirsten just got married a few weeks ago now, and Kirsten had 3 foster children, and Nick is now like their father figure, and so that's been a whole thing. So I was just checking in and seeing how he's doing all that. And so we're talking about parenting and all of that. And for the sake of not spending a lot of time on it, like in summary, he was talking about things that he felt like the Lord was teaching him through study and also reflecting then on like his parenting. Like, so God would like ask, Adam a question, but God already knew, but he's in this like discipline almost, or like he wanted Adam to reflect on what he did, and then he asking the whole Cain and Abel situation, like, where's your brother? And God knew where his brother was, but he's like asking the question, like making you have to reflect on it, on yourself and your own decisions and how do you respond and answer. So we're talking about parenting and all this. And I was like, you know what, with me right now, the Lord has been convicting me on like the building up of my children and prophesying over them, like speaking life over them. And my fear, of course, is like the things that they're attached to from their trauma and just, and also in what I've seen through my older sister. Like my parents adopted her, she had no signs of like all the crazy things that ended up happening in her life, like when she was younger. So there's this really like real fear in me that like our children will grow up in church and all these things, and then like the enemy will, whatever. And it's just like, I have to pray that off so often and so frequently. And I'm like, but the Lord has just been convicting me on like speaking life over them, prophesying life and good things about how they will love the Lord, how they will serve the church, how they will have they will be highly favored, like all these things, like they will, serve God, honor him well. They will lead their families and they will have, just all these things. Speaking life is so important, but also like just like building them up with like when I discipline or how I discipline too, of just all that. So yeah, I mean, but we were talking about like what we're doing right now will truly like shape. Like we think, oh, we're just surviving parenthood now. We're just going to get through. We're going to survive this season. We're just going to, do what we can, whatever. But it's like, no, like because 20 years down the road when the kids look back at their childhood, this is what they're going to remember. And then how they look back and what they remember from their childhood is what's going to steer them as adults to lead their homes. When they have to think about like when they're parents, what they have to think about what their parents did. Like, are they going to want to be like, well, I know what not to do? Or are they going to say, no, that's what I want to provide for my kids? Like we are in the midst right now in parenthood of shaping what their lives will look like 20 years down the road. We're talking generationally here, because then what we do impacts them, what they do impacts their children, and and so on and so forth. So it's like important work right now. We're not just trying to survive. Like it's ministry. Like we're in the thick of it.
And that's the thing. I think it's easy to, like I was saying, like I'm prone to be distracted, and it's easy to lose sight of that sometimes. But it's like if you really stop and think about it, it almost like it's overwhelming how big of a responsibility that is.
Oh yeah.
But
it's huge.
That we have Jesus, so that's good.
That is, praise God.
That's good. But
still. Well, and Fran, speaking of just Bria, speaking of your children, speaking of your heart as a husband and as a father, I think it's a perfect way to just finally pose the question that we're going to spend the rest of the episode talking about. But our dear friend Fran, what's your story?
So it's a cold and rainy night. I don't know if it was raining. Probably not cold because it was El Salvador.
It was El Salvador. It was hot. Is it humid?
Possibly. But no. So yeah, I was born in El Salvador. I'm an only child. So yep. Whoop. I did not know that about Eric until a few months ago. I feel like we had this conversation.
Parents got it right the first time.
Yeah, I know.
Well, I can't say the same thing. There were 3 others after me.
Not surprising.
That's funny.
But yeah, so yeah, I was born and raised in El Salvador, to a Christian family. So I'm very thankful for that. We always went to church. I was always at church. My parents were very involved. When they were younger, part of, worship teams. My dad has always been really good at singing, playing the guitar, stuff like that. So I learned a lot of my guitar stuff from him. But yeah, so they were super involved in church. As they grew older, they kind of got involved more with other ministries. So I was always also from a very young age, like I got baptized when I was like 12. And it's funny, I think I said this story when I was talking to Jared too. But my mom, so in El Salvador, in the church that I went to at that time, you had to do some kind of lessons or classes before you could get baptized. So it's like a month or two, something like that, every Sunday. And it's basically, the point of it is for you to understand what you're doing, you know, for you to actually understand the magnitude of what baptism is and stuff like that, which I think it's good. But anyways, I finished a round of classes, and my mom said, I would like for you to get baptized when you are Jesus' age, when he went to the temple, which was 12 years old. And I was not 12 years old when my first round of classes was done, so I had to take it again. And I always...
Is it Margarita?
Margarita, yeah.
Are you saying yeah, that's right. I'm saying it correctly?
In
the American way.
In the American way, you are saying it
perfectly.
It's
probably like Margarita.
Yep, yes, Margarita.
Yeah,
Margarita.
Nice
but
art
she's
roll.
thanks.
Well done.
No, she's so
Margarita.
sweet.
You did
I can imagine her telling you that.
She just really wanted that.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was 11. What was I going to say? No.
Yeah.
You know, like she owned me. So, so yeah, but it's funny to me that I had to take that class twice because I wasn't 12 yet. But I got baptized, and I was always involved with church. Like when I was younger, I did a lot with like Sunday school stuff. But yeah, so I was always involved with church, and it was good to have that all my life. I do think that I've heard people say, and Bria and I talk about this too, that, you know, some people say like, oh, well, my testimony is, you know, not as captivating as the person who had a drug addiction or a person who, you know, any other things, you know. And it's different. Like obviously we all are in a what do you call that? A journey with Jesus. So it's different for everybody. I don't think it's any less powerful, but maybe you have to be a little bit more insightful about yourself when you've grown up in the church, because, you know, I'm not perfect. So clearly there's something that Jesus has brought me through, many things. So yeah, I was about 12 years old, 13 years old, something like that, when my parents went through a very rough patch on their marriage. They separated, and that was really tough. My mom and I had to live by ourselves, basically, for a while, for a couple of years, 2-3 years. But I think, and I told this to my mom when we were alone, that really is what made my faith become real to me. So, you know, it's one of those things that, in a way, you, in hindsight, what did it say? Like, hindsight is, I don't know. There's a saying.
2020?
Something. Yep. It's always 2020. And it's like, you know, at the moment where all those things are happening, you're like, why? You know, why me? Why God? This is rough. You know, you're seeing the people you love suffering, like my mom suffering. It was difficult just to get through life because it was just now us two. But, you know, now that I think back to it, that was the time in my life where Jesus became real for me. So I'm thankful for that. Like, honestly, you know, it's one of those things that it's hard to say, but I don't know if any other way that would have happened in my life. So I'm thankful for it now, even though it sucked when it happened.
Yeah.
But God is good. My parents eventually reconciled after about 2-3 years, and that's a whole other testimony that it's theirs to tell. But they got back together, and there was obviously some healing to do there from all of us. But yeah, my parents are back together. Obviously, not perfect. We're not perfect, but God has brought them through a lot of stuff, and I've been able to learn a lot from both of them through those circumstances. So that was a big thing, I think, that happened when I was younger. And then, you know, went to college, graduated college, started working in El Salvador. And one of the things that one of the places that I worked at when I was in college was I worked as a translator for Compassion International. So for for people who don't know about Compassion, is basically an organization that works with a lot of different countries and all over the world that have higher indexes of poverty, and basically they just partner with local churches to start what were they called, child development centers, basically. And so they make the church, their facilities, they have classrooms and resources and stuff like that are from Compassion, just to help all the children around that community, basically. So they teach them about health, they teach them about actual, curricular stuff, and they teach them about Jesus. And how that's done is through sponsors on this side. So on the United States, I think you can sponsor all over the world, obviously, but I think a big bulk of the sponsors are in the United States because it's an American organization. But yeah, so I was working there for about a year. It's funny how that all happened, because it literally was, I had a friend that worked there, and then I was just in the cafeteria of my university one day, and she just kind of walked by and she was like, "Hey, we're short on translators for this one day. Do you want to come?" And I was like, "Sure, why not?" I was kind of insecure about my English speaking skills at that point in time. I still am when I go through the drive-thru. It's really hard to understand, but that's a whole different conversation. Yeah, I make Bria order in the drive-thru every single time. She is mostly graceful with me about that. But yeah, so I just said yes, and then that kind of opened the door for me to start doing more of that work with them. And it was really cool, honestly. It was really cool to see, because even as you live in a country that has more, I don't know if it's more poverty or it's, I don't know, because you see poverty here too, obviously. But it was just cool to see the church doing its job.
Wow, yeah.
It was pretty awesome. Because, technically our title, everybody that did the same kind of job that I did, was not translator. We were like, what was it called? It's been a while now. I'm starting to feel old. But it was certified external host. I remember that now. Certified external host, which basically means you're there for the whole week of the trip when sponsors come for a mission trip to meet their kids, mostly. Some other groups come just to see what Compassion is doing, walk around different projects and centers and stuff like that. But we would be with them the whole week, help them communicate, obviously, but then it's kind of like working here, like you do a lot of other stuff. You stack up chairs, you put chairs out there, you get some place ready, you translate sermons, which that's tough. Both ways it's tough, but when you're translating from Spanish to English, it was extra tough. But we did a lot of that, and it was cool just to see, kind of, in a way, when you grow up in a country where you see sometimes little kids in the stoplights asking for money, you can grow desensitized to it. But that kind of put you out there, knowing, listening to their stories and all of that. And it just kind of made me kind of be like, man, like there's a lot going on that it's not that I was not aware, but I didn't care about, And so I think it was really cool to see that. It definitely taught me a lot just about seeing these kids that have so much need, and their parents don't have to necessarily be Christians, so that adds another factor into how their home life might be. But just seeing the church being there, and when I say the church, I mean people, literally people that care about these kids so much. It's a full-time job, and they were not getting paid full-time,
Wow.
wages or anything like that. It's like they get something, but it's not, it's nothing compared to the work that they're doing. They really cared about these kids and were very committed and advocating for them. So it's really cool, and obviously rubs on you, you feel invested, and you feel like you care about that. And I mean, even to this day, I only worked in Compassion for 1 year in 2013. And Bria and I started sponsoring a boy about a year ago, something like that. And we kind of want, because we saw that too when some of the sponsors would come with their kids, and it would be like their kids write letters to this sponsored kid and they get to meet. And I just think it's cool, you know, to also like expose your kids to that. Just to see them that there's a lot more going on than what goes on in their houses or in their, you know, little lives. But yeah, so we're sponsoring a kid, and we feel like that's kind of like full circle kind of thing. We love it. And yeah, so I was working there. One of the groups, we would go probably on a trip with a group once a month for a week, something like that. And so one of the groups that came from a church in Edwardsville. And Bria was in that group, my now wife. So what I always say is, you know, she laid eyes on me and she could not, you know, help herself. That's how I tell the story. And since she's not here.
How would she tell the story, Fran?
I think I've heard her tell the story. It's very similar. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, she didn't know me then. Yeah. So she just fell for me. But no, so yeah, so this group came, we were with them for that whole week, and it just kind of happened to be like a lot of younger people, like college age people, and a lot of us translators were college age, you know, kids, I guess. When I say that, I feel really old. But yeah, so we just really bonded, got really close. So it wasn't just like her and me that got close. But like, if we just kind of became friends.
Anybody else get married from that
Nope.
trip? Okay,
No. So then I don't know.
Yeah. So I mean,
yeah. Well, with that perspective, we were the only ones to become close, I guess. But no, we all became like good friends. We kept in touch afterwards. And that's a really cool thing, because that church, I don't know how things have changed with how Compassion does that now, but back then, it was like you could have a church-to-church relationship, and it was really cool because it was basically this church in Edwardsville had a one-to-one relationship with a church in El Salvador. So basically what that means is all new kids that come up for sponsorship at this church, the church in the U.S. has first dibs to them to sponsor them. And they were really good at it. It's like they kept sponsoring more kids, and they would just have them. Like that was their thing. It's a really big thing in that church. And so they came twice a year from that church, 2 different groups of people every year, twice a year. So that's how I met Bria. We just kind of kept in touch, kind of kept talking, all of us as a group of friends. But then it kind of was like, you know, I like
you guys
her.
left the group
She
chat
kind of liked me.
to start your own individual chat.
It was one of those things, because like technically, like it wasn't allowed for, you know, to have, you know, yeah.
Yes. Love has no boundaries.
Well, here's the thing. Here's what I always say. We did not technically break the rules, because we were talking, but we didn't officially start dating until after I was done working at Compassion. So I'll say that.
You had great integrity, Fran. And God had his way.
we tried, but also it was made easy by the fact that we were separated by thousands of miles.
Yeah.
So,
so was Bria in school in Edwardsville? Is that how she was
she
at
went
that
to
church?
SIUE.
Okay.
And so she lived I think she lived at the dorms for a semester, and then she lived with some friends. But that church, it's Metro Community Church, and I think she just found that church through some friends, and she found some really great friends there that to this day she's like her best friends are still from that church that she went on a mission trip with. You know, like that's crazy about mission trips is like you can make very long-lasting relationships.
I mean, it bonds you.
Yeah, for sure. Serving the Lord together.
If you're sitting out there and you're single right now,
go on some mission trips.
Do it for the Lord.
That's amazing. No, that is super cool.
I mean, I spent a lot of time in high school ministry. Nothing ended relationships or started relationships more than a summer trip.
Yeah.
That's just all there is to it. Yeah.
That's amazing.
That's funny.
So cool.
That's funny.
So then go ahead.
Well, I was say, so you met Bree. Obviously, you get You get hitched, you get married.
Yep. Yeah, we met. It was kind of a long distance relationship. Like, we started dating officially in 2014, and we didn't get married until 2017. It's funny because we even had to do paperwork to get married. Like, I proposed, and then we started some paperwork. So we literally couldn't have a wedding date until we kind of had our paperwork approved, but it all worked out. And yes, I was able to come here. It's literally 90-day fiance, literally. Like, you get
That's
here,
amazing.
you got 90 days to get married. Like, you know,
Yeah.
TLC just ran with it, basically. And they, you know, they're probably making a ton of money from it. But yeah, so I got my visa to come here to get married, you know, try to pack my life in 2 suitcases.
Wow.
And come over here. It was tough because I'm an only child. So, you know, leave my parents there. It's difficult still. I feel like I'm an emotional guy, but I'm not an outwardly emotional guy. So, like, it never, like, I've never been, like, depressed about it, but you know, it weighs on you, obviously.
That's so tough. And so you guys got married in 17, is that what
17,
you said?
yep.
Oh, and you've been in the States since 17.
Since then, yeah. We've been visiting my family, but yeah, living here since August 2017. So it was,
So now because I don't know, I feel like this is a very American question to ask, because when you live in America, you just assume, because I think of what everybody tells you, that, like, everybody's plan is to come to America. So, like, would you have, like, is that a thing? Like, if you had never met Bria, would you still be in El Salvador?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, yeah, people want to come here for many different reasons, obviously. But obviously one of them is just there seem to be better opportunities here than maybe there might be in your country if you're struggling in your country, you know, to make ends meet and stuff like that. And then money you make here might translate slightly better if spent in El Salvador. So that there's a whole culture, like, in El Salvador, of people that left during we had a civil war in the 80s in El Salvador, and a lot of people left the country, came to the States, stayed here, and now they send money back to their family. And that's just kind of how, like there's a statistic somewhere out there that I don't know, but there is a statistic that a lot of the money that El Salvador makes, as in, I don't know if income is the right word, but a lot of the money that El Salvador makes is from people sending money from the United States that are living here to their families. So there's a lot of people, and, you know, I can understand it. It honestly never even crossed my mind to come and visit here. Like, I had no reason. I mean, I had some friends that I made from Compassion, but that was about it. I mean, and I had some family that lives here too, but, you know, it never really was like a thing that I wanted to come live here. So it's just funny. I definitely would not be here if I wasn't married to Bria. And my mom says the same thing. It's like, I was like, I have no interest in traveling in airplanes. She gets very nervous. So,
but she makes the trip.
Yeah, she does it. She does it for the
here.
kids. Yeah.
To see the
And so now you have 2 kids.
Yeah, we have Diego and Layla.
And tell everybody the fun fact about Layla.
Fun fact about Layla is that she shares a birthday with Brooke.
That's right.
Yeah, wow. Same birthday.
She's my birthday girl.
Yep.
We're birthday twins. She's
October 28th.
She's so sweet.
Yep.
Yeah.
October
so
28th.
every birthday, it's
it's
happy
easy to
birthday,
remember.
Layla. Yeah.
Easy to remember.
Yeah, it's fun.
So I want to go. I have a couple, because I think there's interesting couple things in that. What are some of the biggest difference between the church in El Salvador and, like, the American church?
Interesting. Okay. I can only tell you my experience from the kind of church that I grew up in, which it's...
And not that these differences make them bad or
right,
wrong, but I'm just curious on, like, what are some of the differences?
Yeah. And there's different denominations over there too. I always grew up in, like, a Pentecostal church in El Salvador. I don't know that
I would have assumed that by the hour-long set list that we don't really know. I would have assumed it had some.
Come on now. Key change. There it is.
But it's funny because I feel like here Pentecostal churches are more, is saying out there negative?
No. I mean...
because that's not what I mean.
Yeah.
But they're more open to all the, you know, express yourself and do whatever, basically. Here in the States, I feel like when you hear Pentecostal, that's kind of what you think of. Am I wrong?
No,
maybe it's also because of my upbringing, because I was the only church experience I had growing up was Pentecostal, or somehow rooted in, I guess you could say, charismatic more so than Pentecostal. For sure, charismatic more than Pentecostal, I'll say, because there is a difference. I mean, I believe. But when I think of when someone says Pentecostal, or you think like, what does that mean to you or whatever? Like all I can picture is all these like old ladies in our church wearing skirts and having curly hair, like praying in tongues, you know, like, that's all I can think. To me, that is the imagery of like the Pentecostal church, but that's not correct. But I just like think of my like granny's like best friend, like she was like the prime, like to me, like example of a Pentecostal lady. But I honestly just think it depends. Like, I think it depends on the church, the people, the location.
True.
You know, I mean, it's super easy to categorize churches and denominations, like especially when you have that cultural difference too. But yeah,
true. But yeah, so I feel like my churches were like obviously you have the Pentecostal side of it, which is, you know, some people speak in tongues and stuff like that. I don't know that it was as, I don't know how to word this in a positive way, because I mean it in a positive way, you know, like I don't want it to sound bad.
Say English is my second language.
Yeah, give me a break. Come on. I'll just say it in Spanish. No, but basically what I'm trying to say is like like in El Salvador, there's a different denomination that is more like that. Long
more
skirts.
charismatic.
Long skirts, cover your hair.
But see, to me, that's more Pentecostal than charismatic. Am I wrong? I could totally be wrong.
Well, I mean, the two are separate. But
right. But I thought the Pentecostal.
Right.
I don't know.
No, I'm saying I'm trying to give him the word as far as like to describe the more outward
expression of.
So in El Salvador, there's like another different denomination that's more like that.
Okay,
but Pentecostal is still like you would in a prayer time have someone that maybe would start speaking in tongues and saying what's
I'm
going
following.
on.
Sorry.
So that's how I grew up. And I think I don't know. So going back to your question, so how is it different? My experience, which might not be everybody's, was in El Salvador that maybe it is a little bit behavior oriented.
Okay.
And so you come to church, but there's a lot of maybe looking a certain way, which might be like the more traditional church here from way back. Yeah. It's almost like we are like my experience was like 10 or 15 years behind the church here kind of thing. You know, like so it feels that way because then in here sometimes I see that church can be like it's a lot more open, which is a good thing. But it's tricky. How do I say this?
In Spanish.
It's like I said this one time in general, not about any church here or there in specific, but like nowadays it's harder to be a Christian because it's easier to be a Christian. Does that make sense?
That's a word, Fran.
like
that'll preach.
Like you can call like in the Bible, if you called yourself a Christian, get ready to run, you know, like you had to mean it. Now, like I can call myself a Christian and keep all my vices and it's fine, you know, and stuff like that.
Like you're saying that's more of an American thing than what you have seen in El Salvador, like in general.
That's my perception, but there's bad things to both, because the openness of church here is good at accepting that we're not perfect and we make mistakes, and that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to shun somebody. But at the same time, the negative side of that could be that people feel like they don't have to change. Or people feel like, you know, Jesus takes me as I am, so why change? Or and we've talked about this in our small group too. It's like it feels like there's a culture about, now that we're all fine about not being perfect, we can talk about all of our imperfections without changing, you know? Like you feel like you talk at church and you're like, yeah, man, I struggle with this. And that's where it ends, you know, like there's no push.
I feel like, I mean, I've only ever lived in America, of course, and I can see that perspective, like without having an El Salvadorian. How do you say that? Like experience or background, you're on it, like you're on the money. And I do think it's wild because we've had this conversation before, whether it be on the podcast or not. I know we've talked about it, but like, God is a God of both love and justice. He cannot be a God of just one or the other. Like it is who he is. He's a God who is loving, but he's a God that is just. And we want to, in the way our culture is right now, especially here in America, you see it of like well, God loves me how I am. And it's like, okay, but he also is holy and righteous, and he's wanting to refine you, and he has a way that is correct. Like, and we have to go through that transformation. But then there's this weird entitlement that we have somehow developed along the way of, I can say yes to all my vices. I can do things that even though the Bible says is wrong, I can still do them because the Lord loves me. You know, and it's like, wow, that's not biblical. But we've gotten in a culture where that's now what people are saying, and it's becoming harder for the church to like defend the holiness of the Word of God without seeming like they're being judgmental or not welcoming or whatever. And it's like, so then the church just stays quiet. And I don't mean that as in like every church. That's not what I'm saying. But it's like, maybe at least my perspective. It's like it gets harder to stand up for the holiness, you know, and God's design and his plan and his way, because it's like, you're not trying, like people are just going to think, well, you're just, you know, judgmental, or you don't know what it's like, and it's like, I don't have all the answers to why things are the way that they are. I don't know why you feel the way that you feel. I don't know why, you know, he wrote it this way and says this, and I'm not, like, I don't have all the answers, but I know that the Bible says this is right and this is wrong, so I'm just standing on that, you know, and like, it is getting harder and harder and harder to have those conversations, you know. So I feel like I can see that. I agree with you 100%. And
the other extreme is maybe what I've observed a little bit in El Salvador is also not good. And obviously, just the same way, I'm not saying that every church in the States is this way. I'm not saying every church in El Salvador is that way. But because you have to maybe look or behave a certain way, and at some churches that I've witnessed in El Salvador, it's harder too, because immediately people just leave, you know, and it's like, that's not the point either, you know, like you know, yes, Jesus doesn't want to leave you as you are, like he wants to sanctify you, but that doesn't mean that you're not welcome. And I feel like it would be easier to, you know, make people not feel welcome on the flip side of that, because you just basically are saying, well, before you can come to church, like you need to, you know, stop doing this, stop doing that, stop doing that, you know, like if you don't stop that, then that means that you don't love Jesus, and that's a big statement to make, you know, because it's like, you don't know but at the same time, extremes.
Wow.
Always,
that's an interesting conversation to have, Fran.
So,
I'm really glad you brought that up.
Well, and I was curious what your response would be, because my experience with different, churches in different countries has always been that I feel like it's just an American thing, but I think most other cultures other than the Americans are more disciplined. And I think they put a lot more emphasis on that. And I think a lot of that is because from day one, as soon as you're old enough to understand it, they tell you in America, you can do whatever you want to do, and you can be whatever you want to be, and you can, and what do you want to be when you grow up? And, like the American dream, and we all have freedom, and, we all let's, everybody just be whatever. And so that's from day one, you're told that as American, where in a lot of countries, that's not the case, where it's not because you can't be, but it's because that's not how we operate. Like this,
the culture.
This is, you will do this, this, and this. And then if those work out, maybe you can do this, but I've always noticed a lot more discipline and a lot more emphasis put on that in other cultures than in America, where I think it fits that you would sense that within the church, because that is, that is real. And I think in the American church that it is very open, which, like you mentioned, can have its positives, but it also leads to a lot of the problems we're having now.
Right.
And just the American church in general.
Yeah.
And so, I remember when we spent a lot of time in Brazil and a lot of different Brazil churches, and that was probably my biggest takeaway, was from the youngest to the oldest, the discipline that they had. And I don't mean in getting on to each other type discipline, but the discipline of just their faith and the things that they did within that. You could tell it meant so much more to them than what we would consider the disciplines of the American church. They took a lot of the things that I think we probably go through the motions on, if we're being honest. They took so much of that more seriously. And so I think your assessment of that is, that would be my experience as well, just from what little experiences I've had. Like Brooke said, I think you're probably tracking.
I'm glad you think that.
Sure. Yeah, well, and I think too, there are probably people who can even relate, of what you're saying of churches, of the, and I would say not generations, but in older generations, I definitely feel like they could relate to that of it was much more strict, and it was more appearance. I have to appear that I have it all together, and I'm sure that's still.
You can certainly find those here.
100%. Well. Yeah, you can find it all everywhere, I'm sure, because it's just here we are, But yeah, I think that's definitely an interesting conversation to have, and and just for everybody listening, to have a conversation and not be offended by it quickly, to have a conversation and really challenge yourself to think, to have a conversation and allow yourself to be well, where do I fall in this, or whatever, and it's what's my responsibility for the capital C church right now, where's my heart posture towards culture versus Bible, and where do I fall in that, and what do I believe, and all these things. It's an important conversation just to chew on and sit with God about. Those are tough questions.
And honestly, I think it all comes down to that. What you just said is it's a personal thing, in both kinds of churches. The main problem is if you're not taking it as a personal relationship, then that's when the negatives start happening. I think, because then if you're just kind of attached to your liturgy, is that how you say that? The things you do at a service. We sing these songs, we act this way, we pray this prayer at this time. If you're too attached to that, then you're missing out also on the relationship part of it with Jesus and with others, to be open. Jesus loved people, but he also told them the truth, it's he wasn't kicking, he was hanging out with the sinners, with the sinners that nobody else wanted to. So it's it's not bad to hang out, with people that might not be the same behavior and the same path of life as you, or, maybe you don't think the same things or agree on the same beliefs, but you should hang out with them, because how are you going to spread the gospel? So you should do that. And I think if you're too attached to you need to do these certain things, then that can be bad. But also, obviously, then if you are just coming to church to kind of check that off your to-do list, and it really is not internalized in you, then it just, becomes like, it's kind of the same thing, but reversed. It's like, you say you're a Christian because you come to church, and it's like, that's not what it is.
Yeah.
I feel like it's another conversation of finding the perfect balance.
Yeah, we're not gonna do that. Yeah,
that's good stuff.
Yeah.
So, Fran, before we wrap this up, I'm a food guy, and it's
Mexican
lunchtime.
Food
It's lunchtime on Mexican Food Friday,
Yes.
and so my mind is going there. I will say, though, the conversation we just had ties perfectly back to my song Spotlight of Monday Morning Faith.
Yes, it
so,
does.
I'll once again plug that song. You should listen to it. But second, I'm curious to know, now your mom came a couple weeks ago, and she shared pupusas?
Pupusas, yep.
Yeah, with us, which were delicious. I ate
What was
too many of them.
What was the dipping
There's no such thing.
broth?
Well, yeah.
What was the tomato?
Oh, the sauce, the salsa.
Was it just salsa?
It was just.
It literally was like a
and onions.
tomato broth, like is how I want people to picture it, because it was just this liquid,
It was
like
kind of-
thin,
it had
but tomato and spices and just all this stuff, so good. But like that was the magic thing
You
for
liked
me,
it?
is like
Good.
dipping.
Yep,
Well,
she made that.
And
It
I
was
will
so
say
yummy.
that like I'm not as you will see when I order my food, like I don't do refried beans. Like I order just the beans in general. Like I'm not a beans person.
I can attest to that.
But
every time.
my favorite one was the beans one.
Me too.
No way.
And
Way.
I don't know what she did, what she put in it. I don't know, but for whatever reason, the bean one was my favorite.
I thought the
of the
chicken would
bunch.
be my favorite, but the bean one was also
Really?
that one was my
Yeah,
favorite.
I actually passed because I was like, I don't like beans. I'm going to pass on that one. Go that, and then I think I thought I had gotten a chicken one, and it was a bean one.
See, I thought I
And-
had. Me too, but I thought I got like ground beef or
Yeah,
something,
and then
and it wasn't. It was beans, but it
but-
was the best one I had.
But anyways, I'm curious to know what is the food you miss the most from El Salvador that you don't get to eat as often here in America?
It has to
Or
be.
ever.
It has to be the pupusas.
Is that it?
Yeah. Pupusas are literally, like, we call them pupuserias, which is places that literally just make pupusas for you to eat. You can eat them there. It's like a restaurant, but just for pupusas. There's one probably every few corners in El Salvador.
Oh,
like,
wow.
There's
It's
so
like
many
Dollar
of them.
Generals. And
Yeah, and the Midwest. Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, seriously. So there's so many of them because people don't get tired of them.
yeah, I
Like,
can see why.
I could say you probably would eat like at least once a week. You would eat pupusas.
Explain to people also what that is.
So
like for people who don't know.
Yeah, so pupusas is basically like a stuffed tortilla. It's not like a thin tortilla like you get with tacos. It's more of a thicker tortilla. Like if you ever had empanadas, kind of similar to that. But yeah, tortilla, you put inside of it. There's this specific kind of cheese that just makes it taste better. And then on top of the cheese, you can put chicken, pork, shrimp, I've seen. Beans, obviously. Those are the most common ones. Just cheese and beans are the most common ones.
Yeah.
And then, you just put it on a griddle, and that's it. It's simple.
See, my American food brain initially thought like I could take this, use this as a taco shell, put other stuff in the middle, and then
I'm
like,
sure
you've
that wouldn't
got
taste
that.
bad, though.
I
think
was
it would be
honestly,
excellent,
I was
but-
honestly surprised at still how thin it was. Like when I first saw them, I was like, I wanted to put something on it or in it. Like I'm like, wait, this is stuffed, and then it was like you just open it up and there
Yeah.
was stuff in the middle. Like
Yep.
I don't know how she did it, but
Yeah.
it was awesome.
And
It was
then
so good.
my-
She will appreciate your appreciation.
Oh,
of it.
she's the
it was-
best.
It was really good. What? And then my other curious thought would be like, what is a food, or is there a food in your opinion that Americans just think is so good, and you're like, I don't get the hype. Like I don't understand the love obsession with this.
I don't know that it's been generalized, but I don't like candy corn, and a lot of people
no
like
one
candy
here likes candy corn.
Good. Okay,
It's a torture object.
So that's not one.
I'm actually not sure who is keeping candy corn. It's like the same secret society keeping Long John Silver's open has got to be keeping candy corn.
That's so funny.
Well,
okay, so here's a question, like, again, about food, because this is really fun and I'm very hungry. But okay, so kind of along the lines of what Eric was saying, but like, is there a food that you really like here in America that you can't have in El Salvador? Or like, even if it's a restaurant or something, I don't know.
I don't know. Probably.
Here's something globally I've always wondered. Are there Chinese restaurants in El Salvador?
Oh yeah. Chinese.
He said, "Oh yeah."
Chinese food is like a global thing.
Yeah, well, that's what I didn't know.
Everybody
like
appreciates it.
All right, good.
Yeah, I believe everybody.
Is Panda Express in El Salvador?
Recently, yes. Just recently.
Yeah.
Just in the last, like, right before I moved out, I think. So 2017, something like that. They came to El Salvador.
Here's something that like makes me think of, like, when I went to Jamaica, they have a restaurant or whatever, and I think it's called Juicy Patties. I don't know if you ever heard of that or what that.
No,
I don't
but
know.
that sounds good.
Yeah, it's called Juicy Patties, but like you can't go there in the United States. They don't have any of those here. I don't believe. So like that to me was like what I thought about, like with you, like just like a restaurant even that like. I'm like, oh, like I have to go to Jamaica to go to Juicy Patties, you know? But anyways, I just thought that was
I'm trying to
funny.
think. The thing is, like, I guess I only think of, like, fast food restaurants.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of those in El Salvador. Yeah. And then if you think in general Mexican or Chinese food, we have that. Maybe not exactly
sure,
the
but
same,
you have it.
But
Chicken
we have
on the beach.
You know, yeah. But we have Mexican and Chinese restaurants. So I don't know. That's a good question. I'll have to think about that.
I'd be curious.
Yeah.
Well, clearly we are starving and hungry. But Fran, it has been so good.
A pleasure.
To hang out and to hear your story. And just great conversation and great insight. And it's always fun to hear a perspective that is different than our own. And you've had that opportunity. And so thanks for sharing that with us and everybody else. Fran is one of those guys that no doubt, and he's one of those super humble people that is.
I am so humble, actually.
No, he's just.
You are.
He's so talented at so many different things, and we're definitely blessed. He could be probably a lot of other places making a whole lot more money than what he makes here at the church, but we're really blessed to have him a part of our team and our staff and our church.
Blessed to be here.
Our CA fam, but yeah, so Fran, thanks for hanging out.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
It's been good. We appreciate you all for listening. As always, if you want to join in on the question, anything that we talked about today that you want to chime in on, please, Eric@centralnow.com, ERIC@centralnow.com, or Brooke@centralnow.com, or maybe you want to ask Fran a question or just tell him how great impactful his story was. You can do that at Fran, that's FRAN, @centralnow.com. But we would love when you guys, or support, or you can do support at centralnow.com, or really you could send it to any email. Fran can get into it and access it. But
I can't.
But
I'm respectful of that.
Yeah. But we appreciate you listening. As always, leave those ratings and reviews. Share this podcast with somebody that needs to hear it. And we appreciate the podcast fam. We just every week it seems like we get encouragement for somebody new and different. We get to meet somebody new and different, and you guys are just all the best. And we appreciate the way that you guys just make this podcast fun for Brooke and I to do, and we thank you for that. So thank you for listening today. As always, let's be people that in every day and every way bring the praise. We will see you next time.